everyone for joining. Please join. I'm so thrilled about today's conversation because we're talking about something that touches all of us, mental health and burnout. And today I'm talking to Dr. Jessi Gold. She's leading that charge to redefine burnout and mental wellness, especially in healthcare workers. She's a psychiatrist, a writer, and author of How Do You Feel? One Doctor Search for Humanity and Medicine. And actually, to start out, I want to ask, how do you actually say that? How do you feel? How do you feel? Like, how do you like to say the name of your book?
That's a good question. I don't know that I put an emphasis on a particular syllable, but I think it is what you mean. Like when I sign it, I always circle the you in it. And so I do try to emphasize that part no matter what, whether I say it out loud or not. I don't know that I go, how do you feel? But that's what I mean. Like you personally, not every patient, every person, all day. How do you feel yourself, you know?
Yes, yes. And you know what? That reminds me of one of my slight pet peeves, not a real pet peeve, but a slight pet peeve, is when people ask, how are you? Right? How are you? And it's such a commonplace comment now that people just say, fine, fine, good, good. And it just dilute the actual value of that question. And so I really like the fact that you get straight to it and you bring it up again, right? Now it's like, how do you feel? And we want, when you ask that, I'm assuming, and of course, yeah, you would want an honest answer. And so, before we jump into the topic of burnout and mental wellness, I just want to, light question here is, what have brought a smile to your face today?
Oh, that's a good question. That's actually a perfect question because I feel like most of the day and life has just been like the news is hard. There's a lot going on. It's not that
Yes.
uplifting. I think when did I smile most today? I had a good cup of coffee. My dog always makes me laugh. She's just awesome, and I'm sure that that brought a smile to my face. I've been watching some good television, and last night at the Emmys, all the doctor stuff from the pit was really successful, which also
Oh,
I
wow.
like. So I think I was happy that they won because they represent us well and they care about our well-being too. So I guess those are the things that like kind of come to mind.
Yes, great, great things to be aware of what brought a bit joy in our life, because sometimes we don't tend to appreciate those little moments. So thank you for bringing those things up. So now we're gonna get right to it. So when we hear the word burnout, and we hear it a lot nowadays, to me it can mean different things to different people. So how do you define it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become one of those words like we're psychiatrists that people use, but they don't necessarily mean the thing that we do, right? Like a lot of times people say depressed, but they don't mean depression. I think people say burnout and they think they just mean tired from work, like work was hard, I'm tired, or that was a lot, I'm tired. And there is like a component of burnout that makes sense for. But the thing to keep in mind about burnout is like number one, it's a workplace associated condition, meaning the systems that we work in are what is burning us out. It is caused by the systems we work in. So you might feel better on the weekend because you're away from work. You might feel better on vacation because you're away from work. That's different than depression. But then it has like three kind of clusters. One is emotional exhaustion. So that can look like fatigue, right? Like that could be what people are talking about, but it's much more than just like, I'm tired. It's like, I have nothing left to give. Like, I gave it all at work. I gave it all during the day. I don't have any more emotional energy, not just physical energy, but it can be physical energy. The second cluster depends on who you ask, but it's either cynicism or depersonalization. Cynicism meaning anger. I think that probably resonates with people, like just feeling more frustrated and angry in your day-to-day life with colleagues, with your job. Depersonalization being sort of like feeling like numbness is a component of it, but like disconnected from the work. So maybe there's a thing that makes you who you are, that makes you really good at your job, that your patients or your colleagues would say, oh, of course, go to Jessi because of X, Y, or Z. Like that's the thing that's missing. Like it's not that you're always making errors. Like that could come eventually, but it might be just you act a little bit different because you're more removed from it and you're less connected to your work, less empathetic, that sort of thing. And then the last cluster is a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. That to me is the one where people show up in my office because someone said they're doing less, they are doing less, or they got in trouble for doing less, right? Like we care so much about outcomes and productivity and how we're viewed in the workplace or school that like that'll come up right there. The other two like can feel subtle. Like how do you know if you're emotionally exhausted when you do work that's emotionally exhausting? Like shouldn't you
Yeah.
just feel exhausted from your job? Like isn't that a side effect? Isn't that a
Or is
side
that just something to
effect?
deal with? Because it's a job, right? Some people
Yeah.
have the mindset you don't have, you should not even enjoy your job. So, like,
Right. And I
go
think like there's generational challenges with that conversation, but I think so many people like don't expect that work is going to be fun. It's called work. But I think that a lot of us intend to work hard, but not like hate their day to day life in their workplace. And that's different, you know?
ahead. Right. And then you, as Chief Wellness Officer of the University of Tennessee, the whole system, congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
I think a lot of people come into your office, and what do you think are the signs that you wish they picked up before so that they would come to you sooner, before they
Yeah.
got that
So
performance evaluation or before they got into real impairment?
like part of the reason the cover has like the faces
Hmm.
is like we show up here, right? Like this is where we go like I'm really ill. I started messing up at work, making mistakes, hurting something, like not doing something the way I want to. For me, this was I fell asleep every day after work and like couldn't fight it. I was like so tired that I would sit there like this and I would still wake up like 4 hours later. And I was like, how is that humanly possible? It was like the kind of fatigue for me that like what having actual COVID felt like too, like just heavy, heavy, heavy fatigue. And that's like here. That's not here. You know, most of us aren't paying attention at 4 to like, let's say 6 or 7 on a scale of 10 because we're like, it's subtle or it hasn't done enough, right? You're more angry with people. You're more angry at work. You're less connected at workplace. You're less connected at home. You're starting to say no to a lot of things. Like your schedule changes because you don't have capacity to do it, not because you're too sad to do it. Like for me, an early warning sign is that my email makes me really mad. And it's like not just, oh, like another email. It's like if someone sends me another email, like it would be awesome if I broke my phone into a million pieces and then I could watch it break. And that is exactly what I've always wanted, right? Like it is this like just like I just don't have anything in my body and my mind and everything is like you can't take on more tasks and email is tasks and I get angry to like sort of say like defend myself against more tasks. But I think that most people show up in my office and say stuff like I haven't hurt anyone yet. Like that's a terrible like limit. Like if
Mhm.
you're a patient watching and a doctor ever said like don't worry, I'm not too burnt out. Like I didn't cut off the wrong leg yet. Like you'd be like
Oh my
that's
gosh. Ah,
like that's terrible. Like that shouldn't
yes.
be our limit, but it is our limit. And so like it's really really important that you know whatever it looks like in you that you start to pay attention earlier. So like for me, it doesn't mean I'll never burn out again, but it does mean that hopefully I won't get to 10 out of 10, can't like stay awake so burnt out that the only answer is time off, right? Like I don't want to get there again. It doesn't mean I'll never burn out. That's not realistic. But what is realistic is that I identify things earlier because it's almost like, of course I'm going to burn out. Now what? Instead of like, how dare I burn out? Like, it's a weakness. It's something wrong with me. Somehow I messed up. It's not. Like, a lot of us will, like, high numbers, especially in healthcare, like 50% pre COVID. Like, that's a lot of people who are going to experience that. And it shouldn't be like somehow your fault if you do.
Your question about taking a moment to pause and reflect and be aware of how you're feeling and how your mood and what your behaviors are like, it reminds me of my first step in my You Habits course. And that the first step was is to reflect on what is a fulfilling life to you and how you're
Mhm.
feeling about your current status of what you're doing. And then to really analyze your behavior and ask yourself, how did I feel during that behavior, during that time?
Mm-hmm.
And is it aligns with my core values? Does it aligns with my goals professionally?
Mm-hmm.
Does it bring me a little bit of joy, or it just am I content with it?
Yeah.
And I think if we analyze our time by all the activities that we do in a day in such a way, then we would notice actually when I'm doing my email, I noticed I was feeling irritable, and then ask ourselves the five whys, right? Like, and then if we notice, like, it's because I'm getting a lot of emails. It's because I'm feeling overwhelmed with work and responding to these emails. I think maybe reflecting, being aware of how we're spending our time and how it makes us feel, maybe a good stuff. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes tell people something similar, which is that like we kind of approach our life like Mondays are terrible, Tuesdays are fine, Wednesdays are okay, but we don't really know why. Like nobody really asked us like what we like about our job. And I wish they asked us before we chose our job. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, most of us are 20 years down the line before we realize there's a misalignment in like what we want and what we are experiencing. And then we have to kind of like make big decisions. I was talking to a student recently and we had a long conversation about how questioning is healthy, how we should be telling people that, like, you know, not knowing what you want to do isn't a problem. You should take time to figure out what you want to do, and you shouldn't be like, something's wrong with me. Like, everyone who's like me and wanted to be a doctor and thought about nothing else, like, it's a bit of a dangerous thing because it's a long commitment and you might not actually know why you wanted to do it in the first place. And you never thought, like, what are my values and what do I want? And how does that align with the job that I'm choosing? And like maybe you would did that on the front end, that would be awesome. If we can't, because we're already 20 years into our job, it can help us pick like the right activities that we're doing, what we say yes to. It can help us like delegate better, right? Like I'm a terrible, like pretty much anyone here watching knows this. I am terrible at things like spreadsheets. Like my brain does not work that way. But if you'd like a spreadsheet, you could make a
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheet and I can follow instructions, right? Like I can do what you tell me to do in said spreadsheet. But spreadsheets do not bring me joy. There are people where spreadsheets bring them joy, and it should be like easier in the workplace to be like, you really like doing that stuff. Why don't you do that? And I'll do some more of that stuff that you hate. And then like maybe we'll both enjoy work a little bit more.
Yes, I agree. And oftentimes people put the burden on themselves to so much. Oftentimes when my clients come to me and I apply my You Have It course onto them and coach them that way, I'm like, well, you're doing too much. Of course you're going to feel tired at the end of the day. Of course, you're going to feel a bit burnt out. How about we minimize what is truly productive for you, what is truly things you need to do, right, for your own goals? There are things we have to do that we just have to suck up and do, right? And there are things that you can delegate, or there are things that you can say no to, like you said, picking and choose what to say no to. And I wonder for you, when it comes to healthcare workers, is that something you see that's difficult for people to say no? What's unique about burnout in healthcare workers?
The system. So, you know, our system's just a mess. Not only is it like, was it designed to be a mess? It has just gotten worse over time. It's also like the intersection about of a bunch of really old systems, right? So it's the education system in higher ed, but then that intersects with hospitals, which intersects with insurance, which intersects with the government. Like which intersects with pharmaceutical companies, right? Like there's these big, big systems at play in healthcare that are always day to day contributing to our inability to do what we would like to be doing. You talked about values, but you also talked about sort of like meaning and purpose. And like most of us didn't like go into medicine or nursing or like any other sort of healthcare adjacent field because we like wanted to document and talk to insurance companies. Like if we did, cool, you're doing exactly what you wanted. But most of us went into a career where we wanted to help people, where we wanted to mentor people, where we wanted to spend time with people. And that percentage of time that we're doing that is just smaller and smaller. And I think
Mm.
like the ability to stay grounded in meaning and purpose in such a messy system that is so removed from meaning and purpose is not unique to medicine. Like I'm sure there's a lawyer watching being like, hey, let me tell you about law. And like, you know, but it is unique enough that it is causing huge problems. And I think
Mhm.
some of it is too, like, who's self-selected to go into medicine, and like the sort of overachieving helper isn't well satisfied in a system that doesn't let them help. And I think it becomes like really, really hard to not do the things that we would like to do because of all these other systems at play. And you see a lot of burnout with that.
Yeah. So let's say I'm your fairy godmother and I can give you three wishes. What do you think the three things that you would change that would affect the most in terms of preventing burnout or mitigating burnout or
Can I blow it
alleviating?
up and start over or no?
uh, that would be too much of an ask. Let's say three things that you can change within the system now.
Because sometimes I feel like, what the best thing would be to start over. Like how it was
Mm,
built was wrong.
mm,
We're dealing with what was built. So what I would like to see is that people can get back to practicing medicine and, doing it the way that they would like to be doing it, which means like this somehow figuring out a balance between all of these needs and letting the focus go back to letting people do the work that they want to do.
yes,
So
yes.
whether that's removing some of the burden with someone else doing some of that work, valuing our time differently so that we're not just like machines that are churning out patients every 10 to 15 minutes, that like how long we spend matters, that patients feel listened to and understood and heard matters, and like value is defined a little bit differently than just like churning out people,
Mhm.
which is not how it is currently defined. I think that I wish that we didn't have to have the hours and this stuff that we would like need to do. And so I think outside of sort of finding a way to let us just practice, I would also say we need more redundancy, meaning like more people that can cover when we're out, that can support us in some of the work day to day. Like,
Mhm.
I feel very regularly like we are having to, like, step up and step in as the only, and that doesn't help because we think we have to go into work when we're really sick, and that's not good either, physically sick and mentally sick. And so, like, redundancy would be great. Focusing on what we got signed up for in the first place would be great. And then, like there are people in medicine who need to be compensated better for the hours that they put in, and residents would be high up on my list there. The amount of work that people do in training when they're not compensated appropriately, hourly, that is like obscene a little bit. Like I get, it's hard to talk about money in healthcare, but if you like took their hourly wage, you would understand why I'm mentioning residents
It's
in
below minimum
particular.
wage. Yes,
Like
yes.
I always think it's weird. It's hard for somebody who's like an attending to be like, I should be paid more, because in the grand scheme of work, we're paid a lot more than a lot of jobs, and so there's a lot of privilege in that. But I do think that, like, when you look at residents, if you did their hourly math and where they're living and the cost of living in those places and the expectations on them and how much a hospital depends on them, like, we just don't do a good job by them.
Yes, yes. And speaking of doing a better job by them, how do you think a healthcare system like you a part of, or the university system like you a part of, what type of program or what things can be done to help mediate a bit with
Yeah, I mean,
burnout?
I think what's so interesting is that some of the most simple things would help the most. And like people think we need to buy stuff, like buy shiny objects and try new things and like get an app or whatever. It's not always that. Like, one, people need easier, more available access to mental health care. It is really hard during the hours that people in healthcare work to get a good practitioner, and I think it's really important that we start to find resources that will like accommodate them appropriately, or if not, set up a system that lets them take time off without feeling stigmatized or like they're burdening their colleagues because they need to go out for an hour and see a clinician. Like, that's a big issue in my opinion. So like improving access to care better and making it easier, because we do still have like the system is a problem, but we still have high rates of depression and we still have high rates of other things. And I think it's important in like Suicide Awareness Month that we recognize that that's a really big problem in healthcare. And so as much as we talk about burnout, which is associated with that, it's not the only problem. We also have high rates of depression and stuff. So we do need to make sure that that is better. Culture is a big thing. So I'm a big culture person. I'm majored in anthropology. I have a master's in anthropology. Like what I think would most help is that we're more transparent and vulnerable with each other. That sounds
Mm.
so cheesy. And like
Yes,
sometimes when
yes.
I say it, I'm like, how
Because
cheesy?
answering this question more truthfully and
Yeah.
vulnerable, with vulnerability, that connection can help with the connection with other people.
Yeah, like
Yes.
social support is a big protector against things like burnout, but also PTSD, depression, anxiety. But it's not even that. It's like, having, you don't need a million people. You just need one person. And if you're a
Yes.
student, you just need someone like me to say, like, this isn't easy. Like, I don't know why we have a fight club mentality in healthcare where, like, we just don't talk about it being hard. It's hard, like plain and
Yes.
simple. It's hard. You're allowed to question it. You're allowed to change careers. You're allowed to take time to figure it out. It's not amazing. The way that we do stuff is not amazing. We should say all of that out loud. It doesn't mean
Yes.
that everybody needs to be like me and like, hey, I'm Jessi. I take meds and like I was burnt out. Like that's a degree. Somebody has to do that. There's some of us that do that, and that's great. But just like celebrities, there's some celebrities that go into their own mental health history. There's also people who go, I've struggled too, right? And there's an aspect of vulnerability that just comes in simple recognition. And I think that people think when I say, oh my gosh, we just need to be more vulnerable, that I mean all of us have to be like disclosing all over the place. Like it's still a workplace. I just mean if you're tired, say you're tired. If you have to go get your kid from like school because they're sick, say that out loud and don't just go, I have to go. Because if you say I have to go, they think that you're just dumping work on them because you can. If you say, my kid's really sick, I'm so sorry, I have to go get my kid, they'll understand that you also are human and you're balancing a lot of interests. And that can make a really big difference. And it seems stupid, but I promise, like, it really could change the game.
Yes, yes, and I definitely agree with you on the social support part. During COVID, I actually hosted a support group for Asian American psychiatrists and therapists for a good 2 years. Every 2 weeks, every month, we did it progressively, and we spaced it out more. But it was wonderful, the community that came together, and we heard so many. I would like to think that because of the support group, people really was able to be vulnerable and felt heard and seen, and it helped them through the COVID period where they were seeing an uprise in Asian American patients that they didn't see before. And there, but not to side. That's a sidebar.
No,
Uh,
I appreciate it because I think like people don't think about that stuff. And like you probably helped a lot of people. It was also probably really hard for you. And you probably haven't actually thought about that much, just like I don't when I see healthcare workers. We don't like do the meta step back, which is like how many steps back to not actually feeling this. But I
yes.
think, thank you for doing that. I'm sure that they probably didn't say it enough, but thank you for doing that.
Yes, it was my pleasure. I've had a lot of benefit from it as well, and that's actually one of the reasons why one of my steps in my You Habits course is building a community, building a support group with whatever things that you're working on, whether that is a habit, a goal, getting healthier, or even just doing more yoga, doing more breath work. Like building a community is needed. Like you said, just that one person. It could be your partner, it could be a friend, but having that support is what makes things stick. And I wonder if you were to say, if you were to give one thing that someone right now who's experiencing burnout to do that you think has a good value in terms of helping them feel less burned out or less stressed at least, what would that be?
It depends how burnt out they are. If they're like 10 out of 10, the answer is take a vacation. If they're like on the way there, I think identifying that something is off, asking yourself how you're doing is like a very simple thing. And then
Mhm.
beyond that, I really think that like not blaming yourself for it is also important. We use words like self compassion. Kristen Neff is the expert in that. But really, it's like we wouldn't be friends with ourselves, right? Like when I was struggling, I thought if I did more, I would not burn out. like somehow if I
Mm.
took on more, I magically would balance upwards, like it would take me back up, right? Like that makes literally no sense. And so I think it's really important that people realize that like it isn't your fault. It's the systems you're working in, that you should say like treat yourself like you would someone else. Like when you burn out, you shouldn't be like, I don't deserve to be here. I'm a terrible person. How'd I get this job anyway? I should never be a doctor. You would never say, like if a friend came to you and was like, I just like I'm feeling really tired and like disconnected at work, you wouldn't be like, that's because you shouldn't be a doctor. Like that's like you would never be friends with someone like that, right? So trying to pause and reframe how we talk to ourselves outside of recognizing how we're feeling, I think are like two really simple things that have helped me and help patients too.
Yes, yes. Taking a moment to pause. And I like to teach people breath work, diaphragmatic breathing. Very simple. Very simple. It's not even full mindfulness. You know, people throw mindfulness out all the time too. And I'm just like, just simply breathe deeply, like you were taught when you were in grade school. You know, use your diaphragm, use your stomach. So that's one of my favorite go-to when I help my clients and patients. That like, let's start out with adopting that as a way to pause in
Yeah.
between your day, just moments in your day. So that's one thing I like to give a tip for anyone who is, listening right now. So you, as you mentioned in this live, that you did disclose that you did have your own burnout and your own depression, and that was very in your book. In your book, you mentioned it, and that was very refreshing for me. I find that, like you said, sometimes healthcare workers have even the psychiatrists, we still have a stigma regarding disclosing our own vulnerability. So I wonder what was your process with that, and whether that was tough for you, and what was your pros and cons when you were weighing it, like to disclose it publicly through a book and
Yeah.
through your channel.
I think like I had some easing into it through social media. So like Twitter, or the artist formerly known as Twitter, was like very helpful for community building for me in a lot of ways, and especially with other healthcare workers. And like through there, I like tiptoed into it. Like I'd mention I went to therapy or things that were on my mind, and I'd see what people said, and I didn't like spontaneously combust or something. Like I survived it. And when I went to write, like I actually never intended to write a memoir. I intended to tell some stories and include some of my own, but it was never like my story is going to be really predominant throughout. And when I went to write it, with encouragement from like, editors and things like that, like how it ended up was very different. And I think that's through feeling safer with those people to tell it, having written one piece about being on meds for InStyle a while back and seeing how that played out and how I felt with that. But I would say, like, you might read this and go, like, Jessi told me everything. Like, there's nothing about Jessi's history that I didn't like read. But I was really mindful about talking too much about my family, about like things that I don't want patients to know. Like, there's still parts of my mental health history that I'm not going into. It's nobody's business. At least right now, I don't feel like telling everybody. And so when I think about this stuff, it's like even the most vulnerable people are allowed to have boundaries. And even the most vulnerable people who are open and honest on social media might not be sharing everything with you. And that's part of the great like power of storytelling. Is it's your story. You can choose how you tell it, who to tell it to, and how you tell it. And it's hard, don't get me wrong. Like it's really hard to read reviews when they're really about you, because the book is by you, about you. Like then it's sort of like this mind thing to be like, it's about them and how they perceived it. Even though it's about you, it doesn't mean they hate you, right? Like it's really hard for your like sort of processing as a human for a while just to like remove that. But once you're able to, I think like putting something in the world that helped you reflect, helped me reflect, helped me learn about myself more, like has its own positives outside of anybody buying it or reading it or feeling seen or heard by it. Like that's an added bonus. Like when I think about it, even just putting it on paper helped me really understand a time period that I needed to. And if it helps someone else with the same thing, like awesome.
Yes, oh yes. And I wonder if you were to point out one thing that you want people to take out from this book, what people can take from this book, what would that be?
We are all human and have feelings and are affected by the world. And that's not a failure, it's a strength. And you should be able to admit that.
Yes, yes. We are humans, and psychiatrists are humans too. Healthcare
Yes, your
workers are
doctors are
human too.
humans. Your mom is a human. Like, for some reason, caregiving in all professions is seen sort of like a superhuman thing, and it's not.
Yes.
Like, we are not superhuman, and that
Yes.
mentality doesn't save us.
Yes. And you know what? There's a great meme about it that perhaps me and you can do a little joint meme. I'll share with you later. But thank you so much, Dr.
You know,
Gold.
I like a meme. Don't threaten
Oh,
me with a
okay,
good
okay.
time.
I will definitely
I
share with
like
you.
a
Maybe.
meme and a cartoon more than most. Literally, like this Instagram account before the Twitter went away was just dumb memes and mental health cartoons, and then I realized I had to do more.
Yeah, so I'll share it with you, and maybe we do like a match of your video and my video, and then play around with it. But thank you so much,
Of
Dr.
course.
Dole. We're about out of time, and so thank you for sharing your work and your
Yeah.
voice and
Thanks for inviting
advocating
me.
for mental health. Self. Sorry, burnt out. Sorry, word wrote over there. So for everyone watching, I highly
No
recommend checking
worries.
out her book. How do you feel? And follow her on Instagram and stay in touch.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.